Symbols. What were the symbols of the tribes? We are told that each and every one of the tribes had a symbol. That each tribe had its own symbol. My name is Yair Davidi. I represent Brit Am, Hebrew nations. We identify the lost in tribes with peoples amongst Western nations. We identify them and we prove it. We prove the identifications. We do this through research. Research is one of our major principles. The principles of our movement are based upon research, finding where the lost in tribes are, and we have found them amongst Western nations, so we affirm and confirm and strengthen these identifications every means possible. We do this constantly. Also revealing the information, revelation, and working towards the reconciliation between Judah and the 10 tribes of Israel. Now we are about to discuss the tribal symbols. We are told that each and every one of the tribes had its own tribal symbol. Each tribe had its own symbol. We find in Numbers 2, it says, "And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying," and the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Every one of the children of Israel shall camp by his own standard, besides the emblem of his father's house. They shall camp some distance from the tabernacle of meeting." So we see here two things of importance. That each and every tribe had its own symbol, its own standard. In addition to that, within the tribes there were clans. These 70 clans altogether are numbered in Numbers 26 and also in Genesis 46, and they tell us the tribal names that went down to Egypt, and from these names of clans within the tribes, of major houses or groups within the tribes, we find historical entities that were important in ancient history, and we trace these entities and we find where they settled, and we help through this tracing prove which areas are historically dominated by which Israelite tribes. At present we are just concentrating upon the tribal symbols. We see that there was a tribal standard. The tribal standard is referred to in Numbers 2 verse 2, the book of Numbers verse 2, but no details are given. But we find in a Midrash Numbers Rabbah, Midbar 2:7, these descendants are discussed, and we intend to read this out, to describe to give the description, and then compare the description with evidence which might help us confirm identifications we've already made based on other evidence as to the identity of each and every tribe in our time. And it says that Reuben had the autumn stone, and his flag was red. Dudaim, that is mandrakes, was depicted on it. So Reuben was the first son. His standard was red. The colour of his stone was red. And even Reuben, even in Western languages, ruby connotes red. Ruby is short for Reuben, and through his name Reuben Rubuari, we are able to trace descendants of Reuben to peoples who settled in France. Also the Dudaim, the mandrakes that were depicted on the stand of Reuben, also are indicative, because they had a flower. The Reuben, the Dudaim, the mandrakes are like a root with a white pinkish flower above it, which is similar to a lily. And the fleur de lis, a lily flower, was a traditional symbol of Reuben. Used as a symbol, and we're told this was a symbol used on the standard of Reuben, a picture of the Dudaim, of the mandrakes. And also these Dudaim, they were traditionally had the aphrodisiac properties. They stimulated the natural inclinations of men and women. And we find amongst the French, rightly or wrongly, they have a reputation for such inclinations. All of humanity has such an inclination for, but having an extra romantic streak within them, as if to say. And Simeon had the pitdah stone. His flag was coloured green or yellow. In Hebrew, the word zahab can mean green or yellow. And it depicted the city of Shechem. We find descendants of Simeon amongst the Welsh and amongst the Irish. Green, originally actually saffron yellow, but nowadays green is a symbol of, is associated with the Irish, and this was also a symbol of the colour of Reuben. Levi had the Barakat stone. His flag was 1/3 white, 1/3 black, and 1/3 red. The Urim and Thummim, that is the breastplate of the high priest, were depicted on it. We find Levi nowadays mainly amongst Jews, amongst Judah. Judah had the Nophic stone. The colour of his flag was like the sky. It depicted a lion, the line of Judah. Judah is today found mainly, or is represented mainly by the Jewish people. Issachar had the sapphire stone. It depicted the sun and moon, as it says. They were the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times. We identify Issachar with the Swiss watches give understanding of the times to all the peoples of the world, and so and also the depiction of the sun and moon indicates astronomical computations, which the sons of Issachar were known for doing. They said to be mathematically precise, and needed the calculations and expertise and exactitude, which are all qualities that the Swiss are known for. As we said, Swiss watches give the time. They give understanding of the times to all peoples of the world. Zebulun had the Yehalom stone. His flag was whitish, and a ship was depicted on it, as it says, Zebulun shall dwell on the shores of the sea. Genesis 49:13. We identify Zebulun with the Dutch. In ancient times, there was a people in the northern Netherlands. The Netherlands is another name for Holland, which known as Ptolemy records them, known as Zebulun Goy. Zebulun Goy means actually Zebulun, in other words, Goy, people and people. In other words, the people of Zebulun were recorded. Are recorded as dwelling in the northern regions of Holland. And they were recorded by Ptolemy, Rome. Actually, so is a Greek of Greek culture living in Egypt, but in the Roman era of about 100 CE, and he based himself upon ancient sources. So this confirms the identification of Zebulun with the Dutch people of the Netherlands. So it says, Zebulun shall dwell on the shores of the sea in Hebrew, Chaf Yamim, shores of the sea in Hebrew, that's what it says, the Hebrew original, and the Dutch people do dwell on the shores of the sea. They literally dwell on the shores of the sea. 1/3 of Holland is below sea level, and another third is needs protection against the rises of the sea, against sea flooding. So 2/3 of the Holland is actually on the shores of the sea. Holland has been reclaimed the sea land through dikes and all kinds of waterworks and drainage enterprises, which have pushed back the sea, recovered sea land, and makes up 2/3 of the land on which the people of Holland dwell. And this is the only nation in the world where this is applicable. And here too we find Zebulun Goy mentioned in ancient times as one of the several peoples living in this area. The stone of Holland, as we said, was the Yehalom. Yehalom in Hebrew means diamond, and descendants of the Dutch in South Africa were the primary producers of the diamond. The diamond still is the national stone of Holland and of South Africa. We are told in the Midrash, Dan had the Leshem stone. The colour of his flag was like a sapphire, and depict a snake, as it says, Dan shall be a snake by the wayside, Genesis 49:17. We identify Dan with peoples who settled in Wales, in Ireland, and in Denmark. The Danes are named after Dan, Denmark, the Danes. And they gave rise together with the Norwegians, to the Viking raiders who settled in the British Isles and also in other areas. The Vikings usually had a picture of a dragon or a serpent on the prow of their ship. This was the symbol, and the serpent was the symbol of Dan. And it was also on the standard of Dan. Dan had the Shiva stone. The colour of his flag was not white nor black, but mixed black and white. Whatever that means, it could mean grey or could mean intermixtures of white and black colouring. Depicted an encampment, as it says, Gad shall be a troop, but he shall overcome at the last. And Gad is cognate with Gudud. Gudud in Hebrew means troop, or unit of soldiers. And this is why we get the picture on the standard of Gad was a picture of tents, of an encampment. And the word Gudud is cognate with Gudud in Hebrew, meaning a group of soldiers. And this word Gad was another name for the Goths. The Goths of history, also known as Gad. They call themselves Gad. Also, Goth is another way, another form, an alternative pronunciation of the word Gad in Hebrew, in the biblical Hebrew. And we identify the Goths of Asia with those who settled Sweden. This is according to Swedish history. This is so. Naphtali, the Midrash tells us, Naphtali had Achlama stone. The colour of his flag was like a clear wine, reddish but not strongly so. A hind is a female deer, was depicted on this stone, on the standard of Naphtali. As it says, Naphtali is a hind, let loose, he gives goodly words. So identify Norway with, we identify Naphtali with Norway and also with elements of settled in Ireland. Traditionally, a deer was a symbol of Scandinavian aristocracy. Also the stone of Norway, and Sweden was a carnelian. Carnelian is reddish and various shades of red, but also dark orange. So this, I don't know if this is the stone, that's actually the stone of Achlama, but it fits the description. Asher had the Tarshish stone. The colour of his flag was like that of the precious stone women used to decorate themselves, says the Midrash. And all of the tree was depicted on it. Out of Asher's bed shall be fat, and it shall yield royal dainties. Asher was to be found in Scandinavia, Scotland and Ireland, and also in the USA. In some ways the USA represents Tarshish. Primarily we consider Tarshish to be the Americas in general. North and South America, in biblical terms Latin America more than the North. But the term could also be applicable to North America as well, and in some certain cases, the US dollar sign, for instance, comes from a representation of Tarshish, of the pillars of Tarshish. And in the Bible, Tarshish, or ships plying the sea from Tarshish, bringing the lost 10 tribes back, represents the USA. And this was Asher. Asher was to be associated with the Tarshish, and Asher was to be very rich and successful. Joseph, and apparently Asher was to be dominant in North America and then also in the West, in Western Europe. Joseph had the Shohem stone. The colour of his flag was the deepest black, according to the Midrash. On the flag of Joseph were the two princes of Ephraim and Manasseh, was depicted a representation of Egypt, since their origins were in Egypt. Now the USA embodies Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh were two sons of Joseph, and the USA in effect represents one of the sons of Joseph, Manasseh. And on the symbol of the USA is the Great Seal. On the Great Seal, as seen on a dollar bill, we have a pyramid. A pyramid, when you look at a pyramid, you think of Joseph. In other words, a pyramid is a picture of Egypt, and the picture of Egypt was on the seal of Joseph, above of the two tribes together, Ephraim and Manasseh. In addition to the two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, having a heraldic sign representing both of them together, each in Ephraim and Manasseh also had a separate signs, standards each for each of them. And on the flag of Ephraim was depicted a bull, a young bull. His glory is like the firstling of his young bull. A young bull in Hebrew is an eagle. An eagle in Hebrew, it could be pronounced as an angle. In addition, on the continent, the angles, people known as angles, also known as eagle, Egloi, and they gave their name to England. Angleland is where the name England comes from. And they moved from northern Germany and southern Denmark to the region of England, and they conquered, together with the Saxons and other peoples, they conquered England, gave England its name. In other words, England is named after Egli, after the Egli of Ephraim, which is a nickname for Ephraim. And the English are named after the Angles. As we said, historically we find England to have been dominated by Ephraim. On the flag of Manasseh was depicted Ephraim means a unicorn, as we have proven in a separate article. There was a creature, a type of auroch, a wild bull, which grew, or some offshoots of this species, apparently occasionally threw up one horn on their forehead, and this gave rise to the image of a unicorn. And this unicorn became the symbol of Manasseh, as it says, according to the Midrash. On the flag of Manasseh was depicted a ram, that is a unicorn, and it says its horns are like the horns of unicorns. And the ram was a unicorn, as we have said. The unicorn and the lion are depicted on the British coats of arms. The British coats of arms show us a lion and a unicorn. Israel was compared to a lion and a unicorn in the prophecy of Balaam, as we shall see in the Numbers 23, 22, 24. There's a pagan prophet known as Balaam, prophesied about the Israelites in the end times. And he described them as being symbolized by a lion and a unicorn, and a lion and a unicorn were the symbols of Britain. And Britain received the symbol of the unicorn section of its symbolism on its coat of arms. It received it from Scotland. When Scotland and England joined together to create Great Britain, originally Scotland had two unicorns on its coat of arms. And when Scotland united with England to create Great Britain, so one of the unicorns from Scotland was transposed, as if to say, onto the coat of arms together with the lion, so that the lion and unicorn became the symbol of Great Britain on the British coat of arms. But Scotland was the source, and we, in the past, within Scotland and also in the Northern Ireland, which is settled by people from Scotland and also from Northern England, were to come a large number of the early settlers in the USA, up to more than 80% at the very beginning, and they helped create the national characteristics of the USA. And not only that, but they most presidents, more than 80% of all the presidents of the USA, come from this stock, or have a good section, a good proportion of their families derived from this stock. And this is Manasseh. This is the Manasseh imposing its characteristics on the USA. And it could be that most descendants of the USA, of Manasseh, in the British Isles moved to the USA. At all events, the USA was dominated by elements of Manasseh who had come from Britain, moved out of Britain. And we also have Benjamin. Benjamin had a stone called the Jasper stone, and probably a jasper, you know, as a jasper stone. The colour of his flag was like all the 12 colours. A wolf was depicted on it. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. So we identify Benjamin. Benjamin primarily was to be found amongst the Jewish people, first of all. But there was also offshoots of Benjamin amongst the 10 tribes, and we think that they were influential amongst that element of West Europeans who became known as the Normans, who came from Scandinavia, from Norway and Denmark, and settled in western France, in Normandy. Originally, before that, they had come from the southeast, from the Balkan areas, but they were descended from Benjamin, and their symbol was a wolf. And there was a symbol of William the Conqueror, who led the Normans in conquering England in 1066, was a wolf. In other words, the symbol of Benjamin. So we see from these that the symbols of the tribes are to be found amongst Western nations, and these symbols are reflected in their history and in the symbolization that they use at present, or they used historically, and that these symbols help confirm the tribal identifications of these nations as being descended from the lost 10 tribes who who were exiled by the Assyrians, taken away and lost consciousness of their ancestry, who then eventually moved to the north and to the west and settled amongst Western Europe. And from these areas came also the early settlers of North America, Canada, Australia, North America, Canada, USA, Australia, and New Zealand and South Africa. Thank you. May God bless all of you.